Welcome to the bold analysis. The Statehouse roundtable that President Ruto held yesterday with the Kenyan media houses exposed his helicopter view of the situation Kenya is going through. And throughout the 2 hours roundtable interview, President William Ruto sat on the defensive edge, dismissing and denying any question from the journalists. And according to him, there is no problem in this country. In fact, according to him, people are just spinning facts. And as much as people complain about the cost of living, according to him, that is not a big problem. In fact, he seems to have reduced it lower than how it was last time. So in this podcast, I listened to that, and just before that interview, we immediately, but that invite was shared. The two teams had to compare notes, and the Statehouse media team and the media house and the editors had to frame areas that were to be touched, and even though it was left open. And I want to say that I think William Ruto is one of the most difficult leaders to interview. In fact, if you want to interview William Ruto, then don't bring a group. Just have one-on-one and allow him to just be personal, that you can ask him more questions. One question and you have a lot of follow-ups. So one strategy he used is he made sure he talks throughout that you cannot have follow-up questions. The moment you want to interject, he uses his power to speak throughout. And then as a president, you cannot keep on interrupting. Ladies and gentlemen, and these are my 4 observations I made from that interview I want us to look at. Number 1, according to your president, his understanding of "I have stabilized the economy" is simply about debt distress. And intentionally he has picked the word debt distress because that is one that the public do not really understand. In fact, I want to ask, do hustlers understand what is that debt distress? And what it means that we were at the risk of defaulting paying our debts. That's a situation that no one understands. Not many of us understands. People don't even know. So even if you don't fail to pay, what will happen? And according to him, the pocket and food economy comes secondary. The foreign travels that already is on his 44th foreign trip recently. According to him, all that was about settling our debts. And the understanding about we have stabilized our economy is narrowed down to the issue of debts. I want you to get this part.
I have made sure that though the dollar is high, but it is available.
Mheshimiwa Rais, katika sikukuu ya Jamhuri ulisema kwamba uchumi wa taifa umeimarika
kabisa.
Siku chache kabla ya hotuba yako, Naibu Rais Rigathi Gachagua alikuwa amesema huenda ikachukua muda hata wa takriban miaka 10 hivi katika kushughulikia masuala muhimu ya wananchi. Wakati fulani Waziri wa Fedha Henry Rotich akasema kwamba
hapana.
Waziri wa Fedha Njuguna Ndung'u akasema kwamba hali ni ngumu kwa taifa, hasa kulipa mishahara na masuala mengine ambayo yanahusiana na fedha. Hali ya uchumi iko vipi Mheshimiwa Rais?
Na tukisalia hapo Prime CS Musalia Mudavadi amesema 3 years. To quote him verbatim, he's forecasting a difficult 2 to 3 years, asking Kenyans to bear the burden. So just like Kitu here is asking, during your manifesto launch, Mr. President, you called it the plan. Is there a plan for economic recovery? Because you are saying this, your deputy is saying another thing, Treasury CS, a different thing, Prime Cabinet Secretary. I mean, this should be one government that speaks in one voice. And Kenyans themselves, Mr. President, wanaumia.
Wakenya wanasikiza pia, huyu anasema hivi, huyu anasema hivi.
Tuliza boli.
Tumelituliza. Nani anasema kweli?
Sikizeni. Nimesema hivi, nataka kuwajibu nyinyi wote watatu. Mimi nimesema If you read my statement, I said our economy today is out of debt distress. And that is the truth. For your information, if I didn't step in, let me even say, if I wasn't president, the kind of decisions I have made, very difficult decisions, very painful decisions that I know they will cause pain, but it is better we make those decisions now than get Kenya into debt distress. There are almost 8 countries in our continent, including one that went into debt distress. I don't want to mention countries, you know them, last almost 3 weeks or 1 month. That is the worst thing that can happen to any country, to go into debt distress. We are now out of debt distress. Our economy is stable, but the difficult patch is still there. We still have to navigate. All we have done is to avoid the cliff, right? That we have avoided because we have negotiated, we have put brakes on expenditure. We have negotiated a good package with the World Bank, with IMF, with development partners, with bilateral countries, China, Europe, and everywhere. And that's why I have been on the road so many times. People ask, what is he doing? It was necessary for me to step in and stabilize so that Kenya does not go into debt distress.
Mheshimiwa Rais, ufafanuzi wako wa uchumi kuimarika ni nini wakati ambapo Wakenya wengi wamelalamikia gharama ya maisha?
And you see, what Musalia is saying is for us to be able to get to a place where we can say we are good, that things are moving, there is money in the pocket, we can feed ourselves, we can do everything. It takes time, right?
How long?
And it takes time because
How long, Mr. President?
You want me to say 3 months, 5 months, 1 year?
No, you're quoting your Prime Cabinet Secretary who says 2 to 3 years.
Relax. Yeah. Because we are not in charge of all the factors that will finally determine where we are going, let us give ourselves time. But I want to promise the people of Kenya that we will sort this situation out.
Mheshimiwa Rais, unaposema uchumi umeimarika, ufafanuzi wako uchumi kuimarika ni nini? Hasa wakati ambapo Wakenya wanalalamikia gharama ya maisha.
Number 1. Na ni vizuri umeuliza gharama ya maisha. Gharama ya maisha inachangiwa na vitu vitatu. Ya kwanza ni gharama ya chakula. Right? Na nikisema uchumi iko na uchumi ya tumbo. Nataka nikuulize na Wakenya wenzangu, tumefanya lolote kupunguza gharama ya chakula? Yes, we have done major steps. The price of food items is today lower than it was a year ago. It is a fact. Lakini, of course, it's not convenient for certain people to accept. That's number 1. Number 2, globally, where is Kenya? Uchumi wa numbers, and these are not my figures. We've brought down inflation from 9 point something to now 6.8.
Now that is what Ruto believes, that what you think is the problem is not the problem. He knows very well that the fact that people can't afford food, yes, it's true, the cost of food relatively, in fact the cost of unga relatively is lower compared to last year. We agree, yes. The interventions on unga has worked. We are now doing 140. I think even you can even get at 140. But can people afford it? That is the question. The cost of living has become a thorny issue. And that is why I keep on reminding the opposition fronts that stick to that cost of living. It doesn't have a permanent solution. William Ruto do not have a solution for it, and even by the time we'll be getting to 2027, it will be on the table. The same way Ruto picked BBI to the last day of presidential election, the opposition fronts should pick the cost of living from now to the last day, because it will not be solved. For the first time in that interview, he confessed about the Ukraine war that has caused the problem. He's confessing that the dollar is high, and according to him, it will have been at 150. There's just someone confessing that it's difficult, but Why not because of me, it will be at 250. Not even, it will be at 250. So that is the first interpretation I make. Number two, there is something we must agree. Ruto's corruption, fight against corruption, is his weakest link. And we've been saying.
Obviously, that is. Is there a relationship between that and the withdrawal of charges against all these accused persons?
No, ask the court. I mean, the court has been going on.
Yeah.
What did the court say? There were no witnesses, because what happened?
The court
witnesses
said this was a prosecution-driven acquittal because there was no longer any cooperation. And the reason I'm asking this question is because you stood at the steps of the front of this building and you said that you have agreed with the president of Italy to withdraw all cases against the farms in Italy, and Italy was also going to withdraw all cases against the government of Kenya.
Correct.
So I'm asking the question because initially there were several people that had been presented before court. Some of them, I think even the current central bank governor, Kamau. Is there a relationship? Because you said withdrawal will be done.
When we talked about...
Is there a consequence?
No. What we said about the withdrawal was they took us to court in London. We made a counterclaim just to make sure that we are not exposed. So when we made the counterclaim, then that's how the case was continuing. So we said, for that matter, they are going to withdraw their case in the arbitration court. We were going to do the same. It had nothing to do with the cases in Kenya, because the cases in Kenya were criminal. The cases in the arbitration were contractual. Why?
Do you think there was any feasibility study done on the two dams? Do you know of any?
That is now for you to determine.
No, I'm asking
because,
you.
You have all the information because you know that there was supposed to be a feasibility study. You must be having the information.
I don't have the information. You're the president of Kenya. What's their feasibility study?
What I can tell you is that contract of Kimwaren and Aror was signed with other contracts, similar contracts, in the front of Statehouse here, in the presence of the president then. I wasn't even there.
And that's what I'm asking.
Those contracts were signed.
That's what I'm asking you. Are you aware of any feasibility study for the two?
I am aware that the contracts were as legitimate as they were signed.
Okay.
They were signed before two heads of government at that point in time. And if there was any problem with them, it should have come out in court.
The reason I'm asking that is because you then, I don't know, should I conclude that you don't have any information of any feasibility study? Because if there was none, then that is contrary to procurement laws.
If you know that there was none,
I'm asking, I don't know.
No, if you don't know, why are you asking?
I'm asking you.
No, if you don't know, why are you making an assertion on something that you don't know?
I've asked you a question.
What I can tell you is that, to the best of my knowledge, by the time contracts are progressed to a place where it is signed before a head of state, that those contracts should have met every condition.
And your predecessor found there was no feasibility study.
If he found out that there was no feasibility study, then he should have prosecuted the matter in the way it should have been.
Which happened. People were taken to court.
And then where did we end up with the contract? We end up with the government of Kenya.
Just on that issue,
and if it went to court for 3 years, why didn't it progress?
So we are looking at it even...
And the president then was in office. Why didn't it progress for 3 years? If it was as simple as there is no feasibility study, I mean, it should have been an open and shut case.
We have seen what the judge has actually said. And you look at a situation whereby the prosecution is literally paralyzed in court. And this is not just even Aror and Kimwarer. I mean, in the last 15 months, we've seen one case after the other collapse in court. And this is keeping Kenyans thinking. Yes, you came in and said at that time corruption was being weaponized. But now there's a feeling that now the law enforcers actually, it's a situation whereby there's protectionism instead of now the exact opposite of what was happening then. What do you tell Kenyans on this, where you find...
Mbona usiruhusu mahakama ifanye kazi yake?
Nimezuia, si nimesema tutakupeleka mahakamani.
Inachukuliwa kama kitisho.
Lakini wacha nikueleze ya kwamba jambo la ufisadi ni figurative language to drive home the point that this is no longer a joke. And for your information, because of what I did, we have managed to sort out the biggest cartel in Mumias.
Vitisho vinafanya kazi.
No, sio vitisho, ni kuambia tu watu ukweli.
The fight against corruption is where he has resorted to threats. And yesterday, let me just give you some anecdote. Yesterday, in the course of the day, there is some WhatsApp group, some media friends. It carries even those who are already not in the media space now and some practitioners. This discussion about Aurora and Kumaret that Sam was asking the president was discussed in that group near like the whole day. People are just like, so what about what happened? What about it? And I curiously, I don't know why it was, and that is why Sam Gituku really asked the president, and you could see between his eyes, between Ruto's eyes, you could point that he's hiding something. He was not so economical with the truth about Aaron and Kumarer. And that is it. So, and in fact, I realized that is the one that was highly picked. You know, the cases against Rigathi Gachagua were dropped, and those ones had been talked about. Now, this was the recent one. So, Aaron Kimwarer, and they want to explain something about feasibility. I know, yes, someone even asked me, Kevin, so what about this feasibility? So, feasibility study is, ukitaka, for example, you want to construct a dam somewhere, you must test and know, okay, mali nataka kuchimba, kuna maji. The possibility of that project thriving there is what is called feasibility study. Now, apparently, and you will even at the tail end, I think it was confessed, apparently, what some of the charges that even was around Kimwarer was, the contracts were signed. But before even this contract was signed, money had been released for feasibility study, but that feasibility study was not done. You know, feasibility study, that one government of Kenya pays first. For if there is a construction somewhere, and that is where scoops, you know, that is normally the Nikama research, and that scoops a lot of money. So money was released from the exchequer, from the to conduct that feasibility study, which was never done before even the contracts were given. Before, then they were denied this company and given to that company. That is why Ruto was saying that there was a constructual case in the UK. So you could see, and you know, the way he even became irritated at some point, and it was like he was even trying to dismiss that question. Number 3. And I was, and I know this was agreed. Yes, this was really agreed before that. The affordable housing is a matter of national interest. That's one thing that Ruto knows. And according to him, it is not about the process. Ruto is looking at the dividends. You know, when the question of affordable housing was done, I want to play for you this clip. He resorted to 2 things. Selling emotions. These kids that are supposed to get these jobs are not kids of William Ruto. You know, is there a housing problem? You know, it was all about, and that was the same story that was said on these people that are going to court to stop the implementation of the new health reforms. That we want to make sure that even those who can't afford can go to the hospital and be treated. And what the public is asking, yes, there is a housing problem. Yes. There is a jobs problem. Yes. But you are taking people's money. That is why these people must ask the process. But according to William Ruto, the process doesn't matter. It is just about the outcome. And that is where, you know, if the process doesn't want you taking money from your own pocket, you're using your own money and do it, that's fine. But this is government taking money from people. And building houses for some people to get jobs, yes, and for a housing scheme, but you don't want to be asked the process. and that is what. And that's a very bad place to be. And you know, did you realize that it doesn't matter? It doesn't matter what the public are saying, because the journalists were saying, the public said no. Then it was like, when you go to those places, the parents of those kids working there appreciate. Then I'm like, wait, those people who are working there, they can't oppose it. In fact, many of the people in the Mjengo sector working in those affordable housing were not, their money has not been deducted. That's to say the truth. There is one thing the journalists were asking, but Mr. President, at what cost? Now he doesn't want to talk of at what cost. According to him, people have jobs, and that is the only thing that matters. Lastly, he stands in denial and defending the cabinet members that have lately been on the law. And that points out something to you. You know, at one point, that makes Ruto, that exposes the populist nature in him. You know, there is that, at one point he even said that some cabinet secretaries don't understand what's happening in their portfolio, and if it's the president, he understands more than what you know, then you have a problem. Now, do you know, there have been a problem of power blackouts in the fuel, G2G. It's so much clear in it that it's not a problem. In fact, he was defending this, just scooping, just copy-pasting what Waziri was saying and just defending it, as if it is not a problem when this thing is there and there is someone who is supposed to be in charge, and that person then comes up with a statement later. You know, it could be a problem, yes. There is a problem of us, the grid people now, electricity consumption has gone high. We've not constructed it, we've not done it for the last 6 years. It could be true, or it is true, but that is why we have a leadership to know. You don't start waiting for blackouts, then you start giving the explanation. You know that you are in office for that, so you know that okay, hatujafanya hii for this, and we've increased people consumption of electricity. So there are these then risks that are coming. So let's continue. So let's imagine if there were no blackouts. So these other things we're doing in the electricity sector would have happened. You could see the defense line. Lastly, he was dodging the regional diplomacy. And immediately he was asked about that issue about Museveni, he swiftly went back to privatization. And that shows you that he even himself, he knows that things 1 + 1 is not adding to 2. Thank you guys. Let's meet in the next.